This is FSPN, the most trusted name in fake news. It is high, it is far, it is Monday, December the 29th. My name is Frankie from Flatbush. I would appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel because we bring you the things nobody else will bring you, including the news. We got some news today on Monday. It's still the holiday break. It's amazing. The season's ending this Sunday. The season is over. And so we got a Monday presser from old HCAG, and a very interesting one at that. So he tried to walk back his comments about effort that he made on Sunday. This was a faux pas, I told you at the time, because I watched the game and I didn't see any effort issues from the players. Nobody was dogging it. Because that is a very serious thing to say, especially about your own players, that there's a lack of effort. Now, what there was a lack of was talent. As we've been talking about on this channel since the summertime, this team was not well stocked with talent, and you saw the result of all that this season. But most importantly, even now with these games, there's guys on IR. We're starting Brady Cook for God's sakes. And a bunch of rookies or UDFAs, in fact, out in the back end, the defense and all of this. And so, of course, we got bushwhacked. What did you expect? Drake May is an elite quarterback. The Patriots are a good team. They've had a weak schedule. Let's see how they do in the playoffs. But nonetheless, a very successful first year for Mike Vrabel, as predicted and expected. Didn't know if he'd be this good, but we knew we was going to get them on the right track, and certainly they are, and there they go. But in this game, we had no chance. We have no talent. We had nothing out there. You're looking for little things. Little things maybe we could hold on to for next year. That's all we're doing. But Aaron Glenn made a big mistake again. And I don't know why we can't get people in here who can be head coaches and know how to handle the media now. These football people are focused on football. Their whole life is studying film and talking to players. And so you kind of, on the one hand, you can't blame them for not being savvy with the media. That's why I always point my finger, and this is I'm one of the only people who even say this name, Eric Gelfand of the Jets. It's on him and his crew. He's got about 3 people who works in the media department with him there, and plus some interns, I think. But he doesn't seem to. All right, so you say, well, yeah, okay, this person, Glenn, whether it's Glenn or Saleh or Bowles or Gase, it doesn't matter who it is. Whoever we get, even Rex after the first couple of years. Herm Edwards was very prickly with the media. I mean, we don't seem to be able to get a coach who knows how to handle the media. Now you say, okay, well, some of these coaches, they're just coaches. They're not media people. Well, that's why you have an Eric Gelfand. And so as part of Eric's job, I wish he would train up these head coaches to tell them, all right, you could listen. If you're going to be prickly with the media, they're going to strike back. It's not a small matter. The media is extremely important in society. And yes, this is only sports, but it's a microcosm of what goes on in society. If you fuck with the media, they will fuck you harder, and they will end your career. Anyways, and that's what's happening to AG now. So he was very prickly with the media all season long, and then he did that Ask Rich bullshit, and that was a terrible idea. You cannot, I understand the frustration and the anger. Believe me, we cover it on this channel all day long. But you cannot do that sort of stuff, because then the media will come after you, and now that's what they're doing. They're doing Operation Glenn character assassination on X. I also write about it. You may want to follow me over there if you want even more information about it in real time as it happens. And so you can see examples, and somebody will post a video, and then I will post a comment, like from Country Club Connor, and I will tell you, here's what's going on here. Here are the tactics they're using. Here's what's going on. And what's going on now is basically the to and through method. So they can't get the one and done. Now they're going for to and through. But what happened on Monday today, he walked back those comments about effort, which tells you he now knows he made a mistake. So it's an acknowledgement of a mistake, which I told you at the time was a mistake. You cannot especially when it's not evident. I watched that game. Nobody was dogging it. They were trying. They're just not good enough because the quality of the players is too low. They're not good enough. They weren't good enough when we constructed this roster in the summertime, and it didn't get any better because of all the injuries, etc., and the trades. So that's what it was. But for some reason, he felt the need to get up there and say, for the first time, I felt like the effort wasn't enough, which is an indictment of the players. It's an indictment of the coaches. It's an indictment of everybody. It's an indictment of the popcorn seller over there in the stands because that doesn't reflect well on anyone. And it wasn't even true. So the media is going to kill this guy. The media is going to kill AG. So if you're a fan of AG, it's going to be sad because, he had potential. He could have been somebody, but he chose a media strategy which is going to get him assassinated, character assassinated. And that's unfortunate. He didn't understand. Nobody understands. Can we get Eric Gelfand the fuck out? How about that? Can we get somebody in there with the Jets who can inform these people when they get the job? Okay, coach, look, Gelfand should have said, I watched all your press conferences. I mean, this is what he does. This is his job, media relations, right? So we're going to hire Glenn. The news comes out. Okay, go watch his press conferences with the Lions. That's what I did. He was at D.C. every Thursday. He talked to the media. And you could see a distinct pattern of how he dealt with the media. And it's the same shit he's doing now. Only then he was at D.C. He only talked once. The HC talks 4 times a week. And also the coordinators don't catch enough heat and also as much heat as the HCs. And also they were winning for, toward the end there. And so, you can get away with it. You're not going to get away with that as a head coach, especially if you're losing. You cannot do this stuff. It's so sad. But Gelfand, why isn't he... Okay, coach, you're officially on, part of his onboarding. Okay, let me tell you how it's going to work with the media here. If you choose, I watched all your videos with the Lions. If you choose to go that way, it's up to you, coach. But if you do, here's what's going to happen. If you're prickly, this is what they're going to say. If you get antagonistic, like the Ask Rich bullshit, that was very bad. Even though it was understandable, it was still bad. If you do something like that, here's what they're going to do. You have to use the cliches. The cliches are there for a reason. And they won't like that either. I mean, there's no winning with these fuckers. But you got to lose better. You can't get blown out, and that's what's happening now. They're going to blow him out of town, unfortunately, after next year. They can't. They tried this year, not enough ammo. Next year, forget about it. He's out of here, probably, unless we start winning, which, good luck. So he tried to walk that back today and say, actually, it wasn't the effort. I was wrong. Very tough to do. And you saw some of the things that the media did after that. They then take that quote and they tell Jermaine Johnson. They tell this one and that one. How do you think Jermaine's going to respond when he hears his head coach said that the effort wasn't good enough? Jermaine Johnson. Say what you want about him, and maybe, but he tries. One of the, he's out there hustling. He's not a bum. May not be good enough, but he's not, dogging it. Same thing with Harrison Phillips. Same thing with Juwan Briggs. Same thing with all. They were trying. They're just not good enough. Braden McGregor is not an NFL player. Dean Clark is not an NFL player. Jordan Clark is not an NFL player. Eric Watts is not an NFL player. And some of these people like McGregor have been on the fucking roster the whole time, and I've been sitting there screaming, saying, what the fuck? We can't have these people. They're practice squad level, if that. It's one thing to be right, but it's another thing when you wish you were wrong and then you're right. It's extremely frustrating. So what they're trying to do now, the tactic is 2 and through. Instead of 1 and done, it's going to be 2 and through. Oh, I forgot the docket. We do have a docket here on FSPN. We're not totally unprofessional. Sometimes I just forget things because I got a lot of things on my fucking mind. And what you're going to start hearing these shitbirds say is lame duck. So the phrase of the next, 12 to 18 months is going to be lame duck. Now, Glenn and Muji have long-term deals. Aaron Glenn has a 5-year deal, $50 million. Muji has a 5-year deal, probably to match. Not to $10 million but a year, but, So you're saying, how is that a lame duck? Well, the media is going to make them lame ducks. You're going to hear these media fuckers, Country Club Connor, Zach Rosenblather, Dick Chimney are the main ones that you got to pay attention to. They're going to be using the phrase lame duck all the time. And they're going to make him a lame duck. And the reason they're doing that now, one of the reasons is they want to say, hey, well, all these defensive coordinator candidates, there are a bunch of interesting names out there who might want to come. Jim Leonard, Winky Dink Martindale, which I think he's out of a job in Michigan. That hasn't been 100% confirmed, but looks like Whittingham's going to hire a different DC. So Wink Martindale's going to be out of a job. That would be an interesting name. He has a New York tie. He used to work for the Giants. He might still have a house in Jersey. Maybe he wants to finish up his career at his house in Jersey. It's a tenuous tie, but we'll take anything we can get. And he would be a very interesting guy, at least from my point of view. He's very creative and would be a lot different approach. But the problem with that is it doesn't really align with the Glenn approach, or at least the way Glenn has had his defenses play over the years. But it would be interesting for a guy like that. But what about a Jim Leonard? What about an Al Harris at Chicago there? What about some of these people? If Cleveland decides to clean house, what about Jim Schwartz? I mean, every team would love to have a Jim Schwartz, I think, which is why I don't think he's going to get fired. In fact, I don't think anybody's getting fired at Cleveland, but you never know. Who knows? But now the media wants to create the impression that Glenn is a lame duck, like it's inevitable that he's getting fired after next year. See what they're doing? It's very tricky. And that way, it's in the media, reports, the agents look at this. Every coach has an agent. So agents start looking at this. The coaches themselves might start looking. And they're like, well, if Glenn's really going to be lame duck, do I want to go work there? And that reduces the quality of candidates that we could hire. And we probably wind up with Chris Harris, sticking here if we can't find anybody to be the OC. I mean the DC. So, like Country Club and Zach Rosenblather were joking around about how Robert Saleh couldn't find anybody to even interview or take interviews. Now, he did interview something like 15 or 16 people, he said, but then they were joking that they couldn't find, like real candidates to take interviews even because he panicked and fired LaFleur for some reason. That was really dumb, which I said at the time, and people attacked me. And so now they're creating an environment where this can happen again. And again, the media loves chaos. They love firings. They would either want the Jets to be a model franchise and winning so they could write books about it like Gary Gnu-Myers does with the Giants, or they want constant chaos, because they got to get their clickety-click somehow. If they're not going to be able to write books, if they're not going to be able to get radio shows and things of that nature based on the success of the Jets in this case, and then covering the Jets, and then since you cover the Jets, you can get a book deal with a book publisher. Oh yeah, get the guy who covered the Jets to combine with XYZ script doctor, and then they come up with the Jet legacy of the Super Bowl, whatever they do. That's how it works. But we can't have that because that looks like it's never going to happen. So then what they want is constant chaos. That's what they want. And unfortunately, Aaron Glenn handed it to them on a platter. That's what they want anyway. And he went after them. You cannot do that. It's like you might be able to do it if you're somebody like a Bill Parcells, okay, or even a Belichick, but Belichick's strategy was just don't say anything. 5-word answers. That's but if you had a resume like that, maybe you could do it because the fans are going to turn on you so quickly. Glenn does not have that, and he's coming around with this kind of an attitude. It's a very bad choice. And I think it's sad because I think Aaron Glenn could be a really good coach, but he needed some time to develop, and we need to see. And so this approach with the media has, let's just say, compressed the amount of time he has to become successful. It's very sad, I think, because I think he has potential. Is he good right now? No. But I think he has potential, and I think Muji has potential as a GM. Look at everything that Muji, the front office, has done since the end of summer. Now, the draft wasn't great, especially the back end, and some of the free agent picks were horrible signings, as I said at the time. But he didn't have his whole staff at that time. As soon as he got his whole staff in, when he started making trades, when this, right before the season, then during the season, all those trades were really good. So it's a very important offseason. They got to turn it around quick, or the media is going to take him out. It's just that simple. All right, point number 2. PFF grades game summary. So the game summary is they were much better than we were, and we stink, and we had terrible players on the field, and they took advantage, and they have an elite quarterback. I hope you guys now realize what I said about Drake May being elite. You see it now. He makes everything look easy. I mean, one of the telltale signs of a high-level player, especially quarterback in the NFL or anywhere, really, does he make it look easy? And when you watch Drake May, it's like, damn, it just looks like he's out checking the mail. It's like it's a walk on the beach, and he's just throwing touchdown, deep ball, this. That is a sign that you have somebody who's at a high level when they make something. And look at the quarterbacks we've had. Look at when Clayton Tune comes in for the Packers, for example. I was just watching the Malik Willis game over there. Clayton Tune comes in, he can't do anything. He's throwing it behind people, over their heads, fumbling, interception. So somebody in the same offense, Clayton Tune, comes in, and he can't do the things Malik Willis and Jordan Love do. Well, it shows you it's not just all, my Matt LaFleur there, so we have an elite quarterback, and they stock the roster with pretty good talent, and combined with a weak strength of schedule, you get what you get. Boom, and then next year they're on their way. So that's the game summary. They killed us. It was obvious they were going to kill us, and that's the way it goes. But now, what about the grades? Was there anything nice about the grades? Well, the top 3 graded players on our team on defense were Michael Clemens, Harrison Phillips, Juwan Briggs, and then Peyton Page. So right there is 4 good news stories. Phillips has been very good for us. We've got to extend him, actually. Briggs, there's another trade nobody talks about. How great of a trade was that to get a starting defensive tackle who's been as good as Briggs has been for basically nothing? Now, it hasn't hurt the Browns defense any, but they had plenty, I guess. But there was a find. Like, that's the kind of a trade. Those 2 trades we made, those were 2 guys we found in the trade market that Muji found. Nobody was expecting us to acquire those people. And those were great trades. So that gives me some optimism about Muj. And then Peyton Page was 4th. So Peyton Page was this practice squatter, came up, he played 29 snaps, number 69, and he got a 69.5 grade. Didn't miss 1 tackle, 4 tackles, 1 assist, no missed tackles, 1 pressure. For a practice squad guy, that's pretty good. Maybe. Got to see he didn't come up and totally suck, so that's a good thing. Then you had Quincy, blah, blah, blah. The rest were either average or bad, as you might imagine. The offense, not much better. Highest rated player, Breece Hall, with an 86. Then Stone Smart with a 75.5. Seems like Stone Smart could be your tight end 3 for next year. Looks like he got a little bigger, to be honest with you. 75.5, so maybe a better blocker. He hasn't had a chance to play because Mason and Jeremy have been healthy for the most part this year up until these last few games when Taylor has been out and Stone Smart's gone in and played okay. Well, sign him up for tight end 3. Membu was the highest graded offensive lineman at 67.4, and good to see Armand Membu get a little excited and get a little riled up, show a little fight. He didn't like what the Patriots were doing there at the end of the first half. Get into a fight. Yeah, I like it. I think there should be more fights in football, especially when somebody's acting the fool. Take them out. I don't care. Olu, 56.9, below average. John Simpson, 57.1. Tipman, 47.7. Myers, 45. So not great across the board here. Lowest graded player, Brady Cook, 33.7. But what do you expect? Practice squad level player. So I don't know how. Adonai Mitchell, they gave a 49.5. I don't know what they wanted him to do. He's out there running his routes. The guy couldn't throw him the ball properly. But nonetheless, there you go. And the other thing, there's nothing good about Brady Cook in any of the advanced stats. So, for example, 4.6 yards per attempt, terrible. Big time throws, 0. Turnover worthy plays, 4, terrible. That's terrible, terrible, terrible. So he only had 1 interception, but 4 turnover worthy plays. No bueno. 57.6 completion percentage on its face, no good. He gets the ball. He was getting rid of the ball quicker this game, 2.7 TTT, not bad. Time to throw. And took only 1 sack, so I guess you could say that. But overall, horrible. Blocking, the efficiency grades for blocking. So the pass blocking was a little bit better in terms of efficiency grades. Membu got a 98.5, good. Josh Myers, 98.5, good. Tippmann, 97.1, okay. Olu, 97.1, okay. And then Johnny Simps, 92.9, horrible. Oof. So if we upgrade that John Simpson spot, think about it. If we upgraded Simpson with AVT and he could stay healthy, and then we made a big splash and went and got Tyler Linderbaum for a gazillion $1 million, be a nice offensive line, but it really still all comes down to the QB. So that's, there you go, a little review of the PFF grades. The only real interesting thing is Michael Clemens being an 82.8 grade. He's been playing better lately, probably second half of the season. If Michael Clemens wants to come back for $2-3 million, 1-year deal, I got no problem. There's a big difference if Michael Clemens is your defensive end 5 than your defensive end 3, and in some games, defensive end 2. That's a big difference. I don't mind Clemens as a defensive end 5, but if you're going to, whereas he'd be inactive most games, but if he's going to be active every game and play a lot of snaps, you got problems. Even though he got a good grade in this game. So there you go, PFF. Grades. All right, third item on the docket. NFL Roundup, late breaking news. It's been reported that the Jets are going to be one of the NFL teams with scouts at the next Oregon game in the playoff for the Dante Moore show. So opinions are split pretty much 50-50 on whether Dante Moore will come out or not. It would be in the Jets' interest that he do. That he do come out. That it do be like that, Mr. Stansel. Because even though he's young and he is inexperienced, if he plays, this will be his 19th start in this next game, and then if they win, he'll get up to 20. He can get all the way to 21 if they go to the championship. That's still, that's better than being in the teens like Ty Simpson, but still going to be relatively low amount. Now, he's putting out great tape this year, and he's a very good prospect. The question is, he's young, he's 20 years old, and he's going to have 19, 20, 21 starts under his belt, which for a 20-year-old is pretty good. And then if he played one more season, then he'd have a good amount, and you'd feel pretty comfortable as long as he played well next year. Problem for him is, if he comes out this year and he can make $10 million in nil money, he's going to make a lot of money no matter what the kid decides. But the issue for him should really be, so it shouldn't be money. It should be, what is the risk I take by going back to school? You can have an injury like a Jordan Travis. You could have a worse year, especially with his offensive coordinator leaving to go to Kentucky. You could be in a crowded field, which he probably will be. Think about next year. You could have Julian Sayin, C.J. Carr, Lenora Sellers, Arch Manning, and him, and Jordan Maeva. That's 6 off the top of my head. And I'm not exactly a college football expert, like some people, like a Josh Pate or a Corey Kinnan or one of those dudes. And that's 6 off the top of my head. And I'm sure there's plenty others who could get into the conversation. Do you want to be part of that grouping where maybe you go 15, maybe you go in the second round? Or do you want to come out now where you're guaranteed to be in the top 3 picks of the draft, almost certainly? And to be honest with you, he's the type of guy who, if you take him and you tell him, listen, we need you to sit for a year, redshirt it, Even though we picked you very high, we're going to pay you a lot of money to sit on the bench. We're comfortable with it until you're ready. Now, if he shows you he's ready, hey. But if he's not quite ready and you have a veteran come in, go the veteran route. And I think that's a fair thing to do. Let the rookie determine when he plays. In other words, you don't force him to start. You don't force him to be on the bench. You say, listen, you're going to come in and compete. If you're ready, hey, great. If you're not, also great. We will sit you. We got this veteran. You can learn. And whenever you are ready, when the situation's right, boom, you go in. So the situation with him, if you did that with him, he's only 20 years old, and he's already done that. So this was a guy who was like an early enrollee. He was like super advanced. He's also very smart. Got the brain power from what we know. So early enrollee and got started very young and already kind of took a red shirt type of season by sitting behind Dillon Gabriel, one of the most accomplished college quarterbacks of all time. Dillon started here at UCF for a few years and then moved around and ended up at Oregon. And in that Oregon season, he put up big numbers, and they did really well, got into the college playoff. And Dante Moore was sitting there as a backup. He said, wait a minute, I got to get out of this situation at Cal with, I think it was it Cal or UCLA? I think it was UCLA. With Chip Kelly. Speaking of Chip Kelly, Raiders is on my thing here. Boy, oh boy. But there's dysfunction here with Chip Kelly. Then he goes to Raiders. Dysfunction, well, what's going on? So anyway, then he goes back to Oregon, and he's got to sit behind Dillon Gabriel. And he knew he was going to. It wasn't a surprise. They said to him, look, we're bringing in Gabriel. We're not going to bring this guy in to Oregon and have him sit. He's a 6th-year senior, whatever he was. He had a lot of experience. We're not going to bring him in here and have a competition, Dante. And Dante said, okay, well, I'm young. I'll sit. I'll learn. Let me take a beat and take a breather. No problem. So he's already done it one time. And then now look what's happened. This year started out good. And then he just kept getting better and better and better. The games got better and better and better throughout the year. So if you told him that in the NFL, he'd be like, all right, he's young. He's a baby. Now he's a baby-faced killer. When I say he's a baby, he plays mature and he's a baby-faced killer. Don't get me wrong. This man is lethal. But at the same time, he is young. And so if you told him that, he'd be like, all right, you want to pay me that much money to learn? I'm happy to learn. I love learning. So it seems to me that if you weigh all of those things, especially the crowded field that 27 could be, and the thin crowd that's this year, it seems to me he should come out this year. Even though, yeah, you're going to make money in Oregon. You're going to make money here. It just seems way too risky to go back when you could have injury, you could have downgrade in performance, and you could have 7 or 8 guys you're competing with now to get drafted in the first round. It's basically a 2-person class now. I would not consider Simpson on the same level as these other guys. If you take Ty Simpson in the first round based on his resume now, boy, that's a hope and a prayer. I mean, I'd be much more comfortable with Ty Simpson in the second round. Given, if you're a team with a lot of needs, you want to, you couldn't get up to get one of the two, and now you're looking at Simpson. I'd much rather take a flyer on him in the second round, when the money is much less and therefore the pressure is much less, etc. But we are going to, that was a long rant on the fact that we're going to have scouts there. We're one of the teams that's confirmed going to have scouts at the Dante Moore show. Another late breaking news here is that Marcus Freeman has announced he's going back to Notre Dame. He's not entertaining offers to go into the NFL, including the Gigantes. The Giants were one of the teams who were looking at Marcus Freeman. People like Josh Pate were reporting, no, he's going to listen. He's happy to listen, but he's going to go back to Notre Dame. When Josh Pate says things like that, it's in good. It's a good source. Pate is one of those guys that's a reliable source of information. Is he right 100%? Nobody's at right 100%. But when he says something like that, the guy has an incredible track record. If he doesn't know, he just doesn't say anything, which I appreciate. Too many people with freewheeling opinions. And then they're wrong 70% of the time, like fucking Tony Pauline. You know, there's a website that tracked Tony Pauline's prognostications and said it was like 70% of the time he was wrong. And yet the guy still has a fucking job. It's like, maybe stop prognosticating, douchebag. But Josh Pate is no douchebag, and so that's what he said, and that's what happened. He listened, and then Notre Dame ponied up with the dough, and he's staying right where he is. That's probably one of the great jobs. If you're a head coach and working at Notre Dame, just stay there. Just as long as you love it there and you love everything about it, and you're into it, just stay there. Don't the grass is not greener. I mean, Notre Dame is such a good job and such a good program. Anyway, other things in the NFL universe, late breaking news and other NFL bits and bytes. Maybe Quinn Ewers is a guy. He had a nice little game. I did not watch the tape. I watched some Shador. I watched some, who else did I watch? Cam Ward. Watching some of these young fellers just to keep an eye on them and see how they're doing. I have not watched the Eilers, but the Dolphin people seem to be saying, well, he's not terrible. So it's possible that Eilers was dealing with an injury that last year, because I did watch him a lot at Texas there. He was supposed to be a big prospect, and he kind of flamed out. And then people said, well, he had an oblique and he had this, and that's what agents and other liars and fuckers will tell you about any player that has supposed to be good, but then isn't good. Then, of course, it's always an injury, or maybe the coordinator's an idiot, or they didn't have an offensive line. They didn't have this. Their mommy was sad one day, and, there's all these excuses. But maybe what, man? But when you hear that, you're like, okay, injury, okay. Secret injury. But in this case, maybe it's true. Which is always why, those late round draft picks, you can always take a flyer on a guy. We got a bunch of 7th round picks. And by the way, one of our 7th round picks anticipated is probably going to move up to a 5th. So I think we now have an extra 5th round pick due to Morgan Moses hitting one of his incentives. That's not official, but it was reported by a fairly official source. So that'd be nice, get an extra 5th round pick. But one of these 7th round picks we have, take a flyer on somebody like that. Maybe they did have a secret injury. Maybe something, they come in and blow you away like a Brock Purdy type. You never know. Maybe Quinn Ewers is that guy. Maybe not. We'll have to see. I'm going to watch the tape myself before I can have a definitive opinion, see what it looks like. But he may be. Maybe. And for a 6th, 7th round pick, if it's maybe, that's really good. That's really good. And then the other thing is the Raiders. So the Raiders if I've watched a bunch of Raiders games, just praying for them to win. Like, can you win? Come on, Geno. Come on, Pete Carroll. I mean, if you ever needed any more evidence that it's the players and not the coaches, look at the fucking Raiders. It's the players. Is Pete Carroll suddenly a bad coach? He forgot how to coach? He doesn't know what he's doing? Or maybe the roster is just terrible, and you took a running back when you needed so many other things before you should take a running back. It's the players. It's not coaching. The coach who matters the most is the play caller, play designer. That guy is super, super important. Otherwise, all you need is just kind of like average coaching. Just make sure, you're not an idiot. Make sure you care about the players. You do the amount of required work, which is a lot of hard work. You got to watch the tape. You got to grade the players. So as long as you're not dragging the players down, it's all good. And there's no further evidence that you need than the Raiders. The Pete Carroll is the same coach he was at Seattle than he is here. Problem? The roster stinks. They got like 4 players. You can't win with 4 players in Geno Smith. I'm sorry. One of the players they had, they traded, Jacoby Myers. They got Brock Bowers. They got Ashton Genty. They got Colton Miller. And they got Max Crosby. That's all they got. You can't win that way. And so, for all of you, it's the coaching. All of you out there screaming about coaching and getting your pitchforks out for Aaron Glenn. It's the players. It's exactly what I said in the summertime. This roster was not stocked properly. Let's see what they do in this offseason, but like I said, it's going to be rough because the media is out for blood. But that's a good case study for my point of it's players, not coaches. Coach that matters the most is the play caller, play designer. That's the one who makes a big, big difference. All the rest of it, when to blitz, when not to blitz. I mean, come on. But I wanted, but I wanted to make a point. I started thinking about Mark Davis and why would anybody want to go to the Raiders? They're more dysfunctional than we are. I mean, people talk about our dysfunction. What about the Raiders? They keep getting rid of all these people: Antonio Pierce and Rich Bisaccia and Gruden. And Davis loves Gruden. There's a thought: why don't they just get Gruden back, for God's sake? Why can't he just go on an apology tour, say, I'm sorry for these emails. I was an idiot. I was whatever he would say. And a lot of people wouldn't forgive him, and that would be understandable. But at the same time, you would then get John Gruden, who is at least functional as a coach. But they keep firing all these people. Now they've fired the OC, the special teams coordinator. Pete Carroll has his sons on the staff, by the way, speaking of nepotism. All these Nepo babies running around. And now you have Max Crosby getting mad. He wants to be traded. I mean, if they trade Max Crosby, they have nothing on defense. Nothing. They brought in Jamal fucking Adams. I mean, what the fuck? So why are they not thought of as a terrible place to go coach? Well, one of the smart things that Mark Davis did, he brought in Tom Brady. He let Tom Brady buy a piece of the Raiders. And now every time the Raiders are brought up, the idea of Tom Brady as an owner is brought up, as opposed to just Mark Davis. What does this relate to the Jets? Well, Woody Johnson, if he was smart, which he isn't, could have done is sell part of the Jets, 1%, 2%, 3%, to Curtis Martin's group. We talked about this in the summertime. Nobody wanted to listen to me. I don't understand why people don't listen to FSPN. I bring you the best information. That's why you should subscribe to this channel. You should like this video, and you should consider joining the inner circle, because those people in there, they get it. They get the real good information. But Woody could have sold a piece of the Jets to Curtis Martin and his private equity group, which has been approved. He's allowed to do so. Only a small number of PEs are allowed to do so. And what does this do? It takes the stink off of the owner who stinks, like Mark Davis. Now, when people talk about the Raiders, they talk about Davis and Tom Brady. Well, I got to deal with Davis, but then there's Tom Brady, and he's a winner, and he has 7 rings and so forth. So what about Tom Brady? So they talk about Tom Brady, even though Tom Brady has been a failure. He didn't bring Ben Johnson around. He didn't want Sam Darnold. He wanted Geno Smith. He wanted Chip Kelly for $6 million. He's still a terrible broadcaster, although he is talking more, and so people are giving him kudos, even though everything he says is banal bullshit for the most part. Occasionally he makes an interesting point, but still pretty bad. And his soccer team in England is not exactly great, though they did make improvements from what I understand. But the point is, now when they talk about the Raiders and that job, they talk about Tom Brady more than they talk about Mark Davis. And people don't want to talk about Mark Davis because he's the son of Al Davis, and he's basically talking about Nepo babies. He basically has no accomplishments whatsoever except taking over the Raiders from his dad. So that's bad. Nobody would want to deal with that. So you get Tom Brady in there as a kind of disinfectant. Woody could have done the same thing with Curtis Martin. Curtis Martin could have been our disinfectant to get the stink off of Woody, because people hate Woody. And this is one of the things, I think, one of the many things that Woody Johnson struggles with is self-scouting. He needs to scout himself and understand everybody hates you, Woody. That's just the way it is, man. You fucked up. You screwed up. You fucked up. Your things you did, the things you said, things you allowed to be done, very bad. Everybody hates you, Woody. But everybody loves Curtis Martin. He's beloved. Anybody you talk to says, Curtis Martin's the man. He's awesome. We love him. Fantastic. So why not have him buy 5% of the team? You get cash, Woody. That's important and good. You don't lose anything. And Martin becomes part of the conversation with the Jets when we're trying to attract talent and attract players and attract coaches and attract this and that. Now people think of Woody and Curtis Martin, which is a much better thought than just Woody fucking Johnson. I got to deal with this scumbag. Oh, Christ. Well, I get to work with Curtis Martin. Oh, okay. I love Curtis. He's awesome. See? But no, he did not. And he's one of the few owners who's not exploring private equity cash, which I think he should for a number of reasons, even if he doesn't want it to be Curtis. All right, let's check late breaking news. Nope, 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 nope. Josh Johnson will be starting for the Commanders, so the full tank is on in Washington. Marcus Mariota out. That's one of the only stains on Marcus Mariota's resume. He gets hurt too much. Otherwise, I think he could get a pretty good contract, but he just is hurt all the time. College. So we're getting ready now for for these college games coming up. The playoff is going to continue later this week. People transferring, people going over here, going over there. So that means more teams, when they finish their bowl games or when they get knocked out of the playoffs, will learn more about their players. So that'll pretty much do it. No late breaking news. Let's just check and make sure. Yeah, nothing going on. All right. So that'll do it for this Monday edition of FSPN. Please subscribe to the channel. I bring you, I think, unique information that nobody else is talking about. So if you appreciate that differentiation in the market, subscribe to the channel. It's free. If you want to go the extra mile, we got 3 different tiers. We got the inner circle, the inner square, the inner triangle, whatever fits your budget. As low as $2 a month, you could join the inner square. And most of the time, I just give all of the inside information to everybody, most of the time. So whatever level you want to help support the channel with, which I do appreciate, you get all of the special stuff, data analytics, key thoughts, nuggets, little nuggets of information about what's going on with the Jets. You might want to consider joining by clicking the join button down below. And I, Frankie from Flatbush, will see you next time.